Elias stared blankly at Dr. Albright, whose mouth opened and closed as if chanting an arcane spell. The words, parasitic twin, and rudimentary uterus, bounced off the inside of Elias's skull, making his head throb. He felt a dizzying disconnect, as though his body had become a vessel for some alien, unfathomable secret. When the doctor, a woman whose calm demeanor was as unsettling as her diagnosis, gently suggested he discuss it with the child's father, Elias had lashed out, grabbing her arm. "Is it you who's upside down, or has the world truly gone mad?" he demanded, his voice trembling with a fury he rarely displayed. "Have we evolved to a point where men can become pregnant?" Dr. Albright, unfazed, calmly removed his hand. Adjusting her spectacles, she launched into a detailed, almost clinical explanation. "When your mother was pregnant, Mr. Thorne, she was intended to carry twins, a boy and a girl. Due to unforeseen complications early in the pregnancy, the female fetus didn't fully develop. Instead, it was absorbed by you, becoming what we medically refer to as a fetus in fetu. Essentially, you possess a miniature, non-functional uterus, hidden deep within your abdominal cavity. It's incredibly rare, and its dormant nature is why it has remained undetected for so long." She paused, taking a sip of water. "Recent hormonal fluctuations in your system, likely stress-induced, have caused this latent organ to, for lack of a better term, awaken. It has developed sufficiently to allow for a viable pregnancy." Elias could only stare, the sheer absurdity of it all too overwhelming. The room began to spin, the doctor's voice fading into a distant hum, and he plunged into unconsciousness. He awoke to the gentle hum of the hospital and the warm glow of evening light filtering through the blinds. Dr. Albright sat beside him, her expression as serene as ever. He tried to push himself up, a primal instinct to flee gripping him, but her hand was on his, firm but not restraining. "It's a high-risk pregnancy for a male, Mr. Thorne," she warned, her tone earnest. "And your general constitution suggests you are somewhat more delicate than average. You must discuss this with your partner. If you choose not to proceed, we need to make arrangements quickly." Elias, still reeling, could only nod a thank you, the words catching in his throat, before stumbling out of the hospital. The cool evening air did little to clear his head. Reaching the hospital entrance, a sudden wave of weakness washed over him. He slumped onto a nearby bench, pulling out his phone to text his assistant, Leo, to pick him up. Just as he sent the message, his phone vibrated with an incoming call. It was Adrian. Adrian. The architect of his current predicament, the man with whom he shared a history of intense, bitter rivalry. "Adrian, I swear, meeting you has cursed my very existence." Elias blurted out the moment he answered, not even bothering with a greeting. A brief silence stretched across the line before Adrian's distinct, smooth voice replied, "How exactly have I offended you this time, Elias? You're quite unhinged today." Elias, still seething, snapped, "I haven't even begun to curse you." Adrian sighed, a sound that grated on Elias's nerves. "I called to ask if you'll be attending the Meridian Corporation bidding meeting the day after tomorrow. What business is it of yours whether I go or not?" Elias retorted, his anger overriding any attempt at civility. He hung up abruptly, too furious to continue. Their rivalry was legendary. It had begun in high school when Adrian, a new transfer student, immediately dethroned Elias as the top student in their grade. At the time, Elias was still reeling from the sudden loss of his parents in a car accident, burying himself in academics as an escape. Adrian's sudden appearance forced Elias to redirect his grief and focus into a relentless academic competition. It continued through college. They unknowingly applied to the same university, chose the same demanding computer science major, and even their high school teachers had lamented their terrible fate. Their competitive academic dance became a spectacle, gracing university forums and earning them the dubious title of campus rivals. After graduation, Elias, alongside his close friend Jasper, founded Solstice Network Technologies. They poured 2 grueling years into the company, their dedication astonishing their employees. Their hard work paid off. By the end of last year, Solstice boasted 100 employees and occupied 2 floors of a prominent office building. Then, 6 months ago, Zenith Solutions appeared, a company eerily similar in business model, scale, and even client base. Elias and Jasper, intrigued and wary, decided to pay them a visit. It was a dreary, overcast day. Elias and Jasper sat in Zenith's conference room, waiting for their meeting to begin. The door swung open, and Adrian stood there, impeccably dressed in a sharp suit, a familiar smirk playing on his lips. Elias felt the blood drain from his face, a sudden wave of nausea washing over him. From that day on, their rivalry intensified, bleeding into the corporate world. Major business receptions, high-stakes bidding wars, even private client gatherings, Adrian was always there, a constant, irritating presence. Zenith and Solstice became bitter rivals, and Elias and Adrian were perpetually at loggerheads. 3 months ago, Meridian Corporation announced a massive project, inviting bids. This was a crucial opportunity for Solstice, but merely an ancillary venture for Zenith. Jasper, ever the pragmatist, urged Elias to speak with Adrian, to try and dissuade him from bidding. 2 months ago, Elias had arranged a meeting at a trendy bar, his plan simple: get Adrian drunk, then subtly brainwash him into backing off. The plan went awry. Adrian did get drunk, but so did Elias. The details of that night were a hazy, mortifying blur, ending with them somehow, in bed together. The memory alone was enough to trigger a throbbing headache. Just then, Leo's car pulled up. Elias, pinching the bridge of his nose, opened the back door and slid in. "Home, please, Leo," he mumbled. Leo, a thoughtful and steady driver, navigated through the city. Elias felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him and quickly drifted into a restless sleep. The moment Elias arrived home, the phone rang. It was Jasper, his voice a torrent of complaints about Elias's recent absence from work and the mountain of tasks piling up. Elias sighed, exhaustion seeping into his bones. "Just come over, Jasper," he managed, his voice weary. I need your help with something." Jasper was his oldest and closest friend, a steady anchor in Elias's tumultuous life. The pregnancy news had shaken him to his core, leaving him feeling adrift despite his lifelong independence. He desperately needed to confide in someone, to grapple with this impossible reality aloud. Half an hour later, Jasper burst through the door, still grumbling about his overwhelming workload. Elias, turning from the kitchen counter where he was pouring a glass of water, noticed Jasper's expression shift from exasperation to concern. "What's wrong, Elias? Still feeling unwell?" Jasper asked, recalling Elias's recent bouts of nausea, which they had attributed to a stomach bug. Elias shook his head slowly. "I'm pregnant." "Pfft." Jasper, mid-sip of water, sprayed it across the room in a fit of violent coughing. Elias, who had anticipated this exact reaction, calmly handed him a tissue. Jasper coughed for what felt like an eternity, then lunged forward, pressing the back of his hand against Elias's forehead. "Are you delirious? Running a fever?" Elias frowned, swatting Jasper's hand away, and silently handed him the medical report. Jasper took the papers, his brows furrowed in suspicion, his eyes darting between Elias and the document. As he read, his expression slowly transformed, his mouth falling open into a perfect O. Elias sighed inwardly. No normal person could accept this, he thought with a bitter pang. Jasper reread the report, his eyes scanning every line, then looked up at Elias, his voice barely a whisper. "So, you're really..." Elias nodded. "Really?" Jasper's voice rose sharply. "With Adrian?" Elias felt a flush of embarrassment, wanting nothing more than to evade the question. But Jasper's gaze was piercing, demanding an answer. Elias cleared his throat, uncomfortable. "You remember that night, 2 months ago? When I met Adrian at the bar? Jasper's eyes widened in horror. Oh, gods. I knew that man was trouble. I saw it in college. He was already halfway to the door. Did he force you? I'm going to kill him. Elias scrambled up, blocking his friend's path and pushing him back onto the sofa. No. We were both drunk, I don't know what happened. Afterwards, we just agreed to pretend it never happened. Jasper sprang up again, pacing furiously. You idiot. He gets you pregnant, and you just pretend it never happened? He's a monster. A modern-day tyrant. Jasper continued his tirade for a full half hour, Elias sitting silently, enduring the storm of his friend's anger. When Jasper finally ran out of breath, Elias cautiously asked what he had originally come to discuss. What else? Jasper grumbled, still fuming. The Meridian bidding is the day after tomorrow. I made some inquiries, it's down to us and SkyCorp. He then glanced at Elias's still flat stomach. What are your plans for this? Elias shook his head. I haven't thought about it yet. Jasper's anger reignited. You're not going to tell him? The report says the risks are enormous. Whether you abort or carry to term, you have to discuss it with that scumbag. Elias pressed his forehead, his head aching from Jasper's shouting. I'll find a chance to tell him. Seeing Elias's genuine distress, Jasper finally snorted in resignation and left. The day of the Meridian bidding arrived. Elias, fearing a public confrontation between Jasper and Adrian, had spent hours convincing his friend to stay away. He attended with Leo, the assistant, carrying the updated project proposal. Inside the opulent hall, Adrian, dressed in a flamboyant suit, was a blur of motion, charming everyone in sight. 90% of that man's success is pure bluster, Elias thought, rolling his eyes. He spotted a quiet corner and settled in, waiting for Meridian's CEO to arrive. He hadn't been sitting long when a portly man approached. Elias. Long time no see. Please, join me for a drink. Elias felt a familiar wave of revulsion but masked it with a polite smile. He picked up a glass of juice. Jeffrey, long time no see. I've been a bit under the weather and can't drink. I'll toast you with this instead. The man, Jeffrey, clearly lacked tact. I heard you're quite a drinker, Elias. What's wrong? Too good to give face to Mr. Wu. Elias was about to respond when a smooth voice cut in. Jeffrey, if you're looking for a drink, come find me. Elias here rarely accepts such invitations. Adrian. He had materialized out of nowhere, slinging an arm around Jeffrey's shoulders. Jeffrey, there's a project I wanted to discuss with you. Why don't we step over here? Adrian led the bewildered Jeffrey away, leaving Elias to take a deep, shaky breath, trying to suppress the sudden lurch in his stomach. Eventually, Meridian's CEO arrived, and everyone took their seats. Just as Jasper had predicted, the CEO announced that the project would be awarded to either Solstice or Zenith, with a final, more detailed competitive plan required from each. Elias wasn't surprised, the CEO was known for his eccentric decision-making. After a brief discussion with the CEO, Elias headed for the exit, eager to debrief his team. He almost collided with Adrian again. Elias, it's still early. Why the rush? Adrian asked, his voice laced with mock concern. Why don't we grab a meal? Unlike us, Adrian, you seem to make a living by eating, Elias retorted, unable to resist. You, Adrian's eyes narrowed, but he quickly plastered on a charming smile. Everyone says Elias is so gentle. Why are you so mean to me? He took a step closer, leaning into Elias's ear. You have such a cruel heart, Elias. Since his pregnancy, Elias's sense of smell had become incredibly acute. The moment Adrian leaned in, a cloying, pungent wave of cologne hit him. Elias clamped a hand over his mouth, a sudden, overwhelming urge to vomit seizing him. He stumbled towards the nearest restroom, leaving Adrian standing frozen in confusion. Inside, he leaned over the sink, dry heaving until tears streamed from his eyes, his throat raw. When he finally straightened up, splashing cold water on his face, a crisp white handkerchief was offered to him. He looked up. It was Adrian. Elias hesitated, refusing the cloth. "Just, stay away from me," he croaked, his voice hoarse and breath still ragged. "Elias, don't be ridiculous. I'm trying to be kind, and you humiliate me?" Adrian's anger flared. Elias, equally annoyed, met his gaze. Adrian's voice faltered. Are you feeling unwell? Do you want?" Elias interrupted, his voice a strained whisper. "Your cologne is too strong. It makes me sick." "Oh." Adrian coughed twice, touching his nose, and retreated a few steps, leaning against the doorframe. When Elias finally composed himself and emerged, Adrian was still there. Elias paused, remembering Jasper's insistent advice. "Adrian." He looked up, his lips pressed thin. "What's wrong?" Adrian seemed surprised. "This Saturday, at 2 p.m. Private room at the Grandview Tower. I have something to discuss with you." "Huh? What's this about? So formal?" Adrian asked, bewildered. Elias ignored him, turning and leaving without another word. Grandview Tower was a notoriously exclusive restaurant in Beijing, its high prices and unparalleled privacy favored by celebrities and those who shunned crowds. On Saturday morning, Elias simply sent Adrian a text, 12 p.m. Grandview Tower. Room 208. Adrian's quick reply, received. Elias took a deep breath, preparing himself for the confrontation. A wave of apprehension washed over him. He retreated to his bedroom, gathered the examination reports and medical records from the previous week, and tucked them into his bag, intending to lay them bare for Adrian. As the time approached, he hailed a taxi, having avoided driving since his diagnosis. At 11:40 a.m., Elias arrived at Grandview Tower. He gave his name at the front desk and headed towards his reserved room. As he approached room 207, he heard a cacophony of voices and laughter emanating from within, an unusual amount of noise for such an exclusive establishment. Just as he was about to pass, he heard his own name. "How can Elias compare to Adrian?" a voice said, "whether in looks or personality, he's far inferior to our brother." Another chimed in, "Exactly. What's the point of being handsome if he looks like someone owes him $8 million every day?" A round of laughter followed, and Elias vaguely recognized Adrian's voice among them. He froze. "By the way," a girl's excited voice piped up, "didn't you read that forum back in college? Everyone was talking about that Adrian and Elias pairing." "CP?" Adrian asked, his voice dripping with feigned ignorance. "It means, couple pairing. Lots of people shipped you too." More laughter. "Elias and me? No. What are you guys thinking? How could we be a couple?" Adrian's voice, though still jovial, held an edge. "Don't even mention that he's a man and can't have children. Even if he did have my child and knelt before me, I would never accept it." The laughter swelled again, but Elias heard nothing beyond Adrian's cruel words. A sudden, excruciating cramp seized his stomach, an indescribable pain radiating through his entire body. He instinctively dropped to the floor, clutching his belly, sweat beading on his forehead. This sudden agony, coupled with Adrian's callous pronouncement, filled him with a profound sense of fear and helplessness. The world seemed to stop, only the frantic thumping of his own heart echoing in his ears. "Sir!" A waiter, seeing his distress, rushed over to help. Elias tried to regulate his breathing, to calm the burgeoning panic. Just then, the door to room 207 opened, and Adrian stepped out. His eyes widened when he saw Elias collapsed on the floor. He reacted instantly, rushing over, his earlier jovial mood vanished. "Elias, what's wrong?" Adrian's voice was laced with genuine alarm. His hands shaking from the pain, Elias tugged at the hem of Adrian's sleeve. "Help me, get to the room, the box." Adrian ignored the curious faces now peering out of room 207. He scooped Elias into his arms and carried him swiftly to room 208. Adrian gently laid Elias onto the plush chair in the private room. "Are you having a stomach ache?" he asked, his voice thick with concern, squatting beside him. "Should I call an ambulance?" Elias's hair was already plastered to his forehead with cold sweat, and he shook his head weakly. "Please, call Jasper for me." Adrian, after a moment's hesitation, pulled out his phone, quickly dialed Jasper's number, and held it to Elias's ear. The call connected, and Jasper's boisterous voice boomed, "Adrian." "You?" Elias, ignoring the expletive, interjected with all the strength he could muster, "Jasper, it's Elias. Grandview Tower, room 208. Severe stomach ache. Come quickly." Jasper's reply was a guttural scream of alarm, making Elias wince. Adrian swiftly moved the phone away. "Can I take you to the hospital?" Adrian asked again, his eyes scanning Elias's ashen face. Elias shook his head. Adrian watched him for a long moment, then left the room. He returned shortly with a steaming cup of hot water and a warm, damp towel. He gently held the cup to Elias's lips, coaxing him to take a few sips, then began to tenderly wipe the sweat from Elias's forehead. Elias, too drained to resist, simply let him. The hot water and deep breath seemed to ease the intensity of the pain, dulling the sharp edges of the cramp. Elias was about to tell Adrian to stop wiping his face when the door burst open. Jasper strode in, his eyes blazing, and spotted Adrian touching Elias's face. "You dare to bully Elias?" Jasper roared. "I'll destroy you today." Before Elias could utter a word to stop him, Jasper lunged, landing a solid punch on Adrian's face. "You heartless bastard!" Jasper yelled, pummeling Adrian. "Do you even know what Elias, Jasper?" Elias cried out, cutting him off, "Stop hitting him. Take me to the hospital." Jasper glared at Adrian, then, with a final, menacing shake of his finger, helped Elias to his feet. As Jasper helped Elias into his car, Adrian ran out of the building. "Let's go to Bloom Hospital," Adrian shouted, his voice rough. "I've already made arrangements there." Jasper snorted. "The fox visiting the hen house. You have no good intentions." Elias, too weary to argue, simply shook his head. "Thank you, but no." At Elias's insistence, Jasper drove him to the 3rd General Hospital, pushing him in a wheelchair through various checks and eventually to a private room. The kind old doctor who had delivered the news of Elias's pregnancy entered, holding the latest test results. "It's nothing serious, Mr. Thorne," she said gently. "Likely a stress reaction, an emotional overload. Just stay for 2 days of observation. If all is well, you can be discharged." Elias nodded. "Thank you, doctor." The doctor sighed, glancing at Jasper, who sat with a thunderous expression. Many pregnant individuals experience heightened emotional sensitivity due to hormonal changes. Family support is crucial. Elias managed a weak, wry smile. "You misunderstand, doctor. He's my friend." The doctor coughed awkwardly, a flush creeping up her neck, and quickly exited the room. Elias saw Jasper's still gloomy face and felt a pang of guilt. "Haven't we already fought enough?" he asked. "Why are you still so upset?" Jasper looked at him, his expression one of profound disappointment. "You haven't told him about the pregnancy yet, have you?" Elias paused, then shook his head. "Jasper, what about this child?" I want to keep the baby." He then explained, his voice softer, the doctor said the risks are similar whether I keep it or not. And, you know how few relatives I have. This child would be the only one in the world truly related to me by blood. I don't want to break that connection. Jasper, seeing the genuine sadness in Elias's eyes, clapped him on the shoulder. When the child is born, I'll be the godfather. And as for Adrian, you can tell him if you want. If not, forget it. The child doesn't need a father anyway. Elias smiled, a small, genuine smile. Okay. That evening, Elias sent Jasper home and settled down in his ward with a book. His phone buzzed. It was a text from Adrian. Feeling better? Which hospital are you at? Elias turned off his phone, choosing not to reply. It seems Adrian can't accept the fact that I'm pregnant, he thought. Since I want to keep the child, it's better if we reduce contact to avoid future complications. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. A week later, Elias found himself compelled to attend a business dinner with a potential partner. Unable to drink due to his pregnancy, he brought a department manager with him. The partner was a boisterous man who believed all business was best conducted over copious amounts of alcohol. By the end of the evening, the manager was utterly incapacitated. Elias, struggling to support the much taller man, hauled him out of the hotel. As soon as they exited, he saw Adrian, who appeared to have just finished his own meal, a faint scent of alcohol clinging to him. A striking woman stood beside him. Elias, wanting to avoid any interaction, simply nodded and tried to steer his manager past them. But Adrian, ever quick, stepped in front of him, blocking their path. Well, Elias. Has your misophonia been cured? You're not vomiting at the smell of this much alcohol? Adrian's words, combined with the strong scent of liquor, sent a fresh wave of nausea through Elias. He glared at Adrian. Whether I have misophonia or not is none of your business. Adrian paused, his brows furrowing as he stared at Elias, a strange intensity in his gaze. Then, a sneer twisted his lips. Elias, why haven't you changed your habit of picking up men when you're drunk? Are you going to a hotel? Want a ride? You bastard. Elias clenched his fists, a surge of pure rage coursing through him. He yearned to punch Adrian square in the face. Hey, Adrian, stop talking nonsense, the woman beside him interjected, pulling at Adrian's arm. Adrian, in turn, took her hand, a surprising gesture that made her smile. This is my girlfriend, Adrian announced, glancing at the woman, then back at Elias. Nora, say hello to Elias. Nora, a pleasant-looking woman, smiled and greeted Elias warmly. Elias, still stunned, simply nodded, wanting nothing more to do with them. Elias, you never expected this, did you? Adrian continued, a note of triumph in his voice. You always compete with me in everything, but when it comes to getting a girlfriend, you lose. A profound weariness settled over Elias. He forced a strained smile. Congratulations. With that, he turned, ignoring Adrian's suddenly somber face, and quickly hailed a taxi, escaping into the night. The next day, Elias felt a pervasive sense of unease that he couldn't shake. Jasper, ever perceptive, noticed his friend's quiet despair and volunteered his services as an impromptu therapist. Tell me about it, he urged. Elias rubbed the bridge of his nose, exhaling a long, weary sigh. I ran into Adrian last night. Jasper's voice immediately shot up an octave. He dared to bother you? Elias shot him a look. Just listen, please. Jasper took 2 deep breaths, motioning for Elias to continue. He was with his girlfriend. The words hung in the air, weighty and heavy. Last night, Elias continued, his voice barely above a whisper, I realized something. Adrian, he's going to have a normal life. He'll marry, have children, like everyone else. If I keep this child, wouldn't that make him illegitimate? Wouldn't it make me, like a homewrecker? He couldn't bring himself to utter the full word. Jasper's expression softened. Elias, this isn't your fault to begin with. Why are you putting all this burden on yourself? My advice is, whether you want this child or not, you have to discuss it with the other dad. Elias, thoroughly confused, shook his head. Let's just wait until after my checkup tomorrow. It's too early to talk about it. The following morning, Elias arrived at the clinic and completed the required examinations. The doctor's expression was serious as she reviewed the results. Have you been overly stressed or not resting enough recently, Mr. Thorne? Several of your physical indicators are not up to standard, and the fetus is a bit small. Elias rubbed his temples, hesitating. If I were to terminate the pregnancy, the sooner the better, right? The doctor looked surprised. According to the examination, though small, the fetus is healthy. Have you truly made a decision? Elias looked down, touching his stomach, but didn't reply immediately. The doctor continued gently, you'll be feeling the fetus move very soon. After that, it will be past the ideal time for an abortion, requiring open abdominal surgery, which carries significant risks. I urge you to think this through very carefully. Elias took a deep breath, nodded, and stood up. I'll think about it. He walked out of the clinic, the checklist clutched in his hand, his emotions a turbulent storm. He felt as though he was trapped in a windowless room, with no clear exit. Lost in thought, he bumped into a pedestrian, and the papers scattered to the ground. I'm so sorry, he murmured, bending down to collect them. A hand reached down nearby, picking up one of his medical records. Early pregnancy. It was Adrian's voice. Elias gasped, snatching the record back. Adrian stared, a sneer twisting his lips. Elias, you're really something. Yesterday you were messing around with a man, and today you've got another woman pregnant? Are you into both men and women now? Before he could finish, Elias's hand shot out, slapping Adrian across the face. Heads turned, and a hushed silence fell over the bustling street. Adrian's head snapped back from the force of the blow. He slowly wiped the corner of his mouth with his thumb, then turned his gaze back to Elias, his eyes blazing. Are you trying to die? He snarled, but his voice trailed off. Elias was crying. He hadn't cried in front of anyone since his parents' accident in high school. But now, the dam broke. Why did Adrian always target him? Why had this outrageous, impossible thing, a man getting pregnant, happen to him? A wave of profound exhaustion and injustice washed over him, and his tears flowed, uncontrollable, like a flood. Adrian froze, his anger dissolving into immediate panic. Don't cry. I was just kidding. I didn't mean it. He reached out a hand to wipe Elias's tears, but Elias recoiled, turning his head away. Without waiting for Adrian's stumbling explanations, Elias turned and fled, hailing a taxi and disappearing into the traffic. Adrian called immediately, but Elias blocked his number. He then called Jasper, explaining his decision to go abroad for a while, asking Jasper to manage Solstice in his absence. Jasper, without hesitation, agreed and even forwarded him a travel guide. Elias gratefully accepted, booking a flight for that very afternoon. On the third day of his holiday, Jasper called. Adrian had invited him to dinner to discuss the Meridian bidding, and Jasper wanted to know if he should accept. Elias smiled. Make your own decision. Don't let personal matters interfere with work. The fourth day brought a text from Jasper, full of dramatic apologies, confessing he had done something very sorry to Elias and hoped Elias wouldn't hold it against him upon his return. He then launched into a lengthy tirade, accusing Adrian of ulterior motives, being scheming, cunning, and listing dozens of other supposed transgressions. Elias was confused. What did Jasper's apology have to do with Adrian? He would soon find out. A week later, Elias returned home, his suitcase in hand. As the elevator doors opened, he saw a man standing at his apartment door. It was Adrian. He had a faint bruise on the corner of his mouth and held an unlit cigarette. When Adrian saw Elias, he immediately dropped the cigarette and greeted him hesitantly. "Elias, you're back." Elias walked past him, opening his door. I want to talk to you," Adrian stammered. Elias paused, a sudden understanding of Jasper's cryptic apology dawning on him. He sighed and stepped aside. "Come in, then." Adrian sat on the sofa, looking uncharacteristically reserved. Elias poured him a glass of water, then sat on the opposite side. "You," Adrian began, clearly embarrassed, struggling to find the words. Elias looked at him directly. "I'm pregnant." "It's yours." Adrian nearly choked on air, his face flushing scarlet. After a long, awkward silence, he finally whispered, "I'm sorry." Elias smiled bitterly, shaking his head. "It's not just your fault. I asked Jasper," Adrian continued cautiously, "and he said you were considering an abortion?" Elias lowered his head, lost in thought, and didn't respond. Adrian grew anxious. "I've consulted many doctors. Now is past the best time for an abortion. If you insist on removing the baby, it will be very dangerous for your life." Elias looked up at him. "Giving birth is also risky." Adrian stood, walked over to Elias, and sat cross-legged on the floor. "I asked someone to consult top experts, both locally and internationally. There are precedents for your situation. Many doctors are confident they can perform the surgery safely." Elias paused, then asked, "What about you?" "Me? What should I do about Nora?" Adrian seemed to draw a blank. "Nora?" Elias gently reminded him, "Your girlfriend." Adrian coughed twice, touching his nose. She's not my girlfriend. She was a blind date. We only met that day. I was just making it up." He lowered his head, unable to meet Elias's gaze. Elias was speechless. "Even if she's not your girlfriend, you still have to marry and have children in the future. And when this child is born, I won't get married and have children," Adrian interrupted, cutting him off. Elias stared, confused. "I'm gay," Adrian stated, meeting Elias's shocked gaze, then quickly added, "It's true. I won't get married. I will only have this child in your belly in this life." A profound awkwardness settled between them. Elias rubbed his temples. "So, you support me giving birth to the child?" Adrian nodded immediately, earnestly. "Yes. I will take good care of you during this period. And when the child is born, I will seriously fulfill my duties as a father." Elias shook his head. "Forget about taking care of me. I can manage myself." "No," Adrian insisted. "I asked Dr. Albright. She said you're not in good health and the fetus isn't developing well. For the health of the baby, I have to move in to take care of you." "You're moving here?" Elias asked, surprised. Adrian nodded, his expression resolute. "Yes. It's all for the children." Adrian, true to his word, acted with surprising speed. The very next day, he moved his belongings into Elias's apartment. His luggage was surprisingly minimal, but he had ordered a vast array of items online. Elias emerged from his bedroom to find Adrian meticulously sorting through packages, transforming the guest room into a makeshift supply depot. Elias walked over, peering into the boxes, his jaw dropping. "Are you opening a supermarket?" he asked, astonished. "Why have you bought so much?" Adrian looked up, a faint smile on his lips. "These are all from online lists of must-haves for pregnant women. They're harmless to adults and children. Go and rest. I'll cook for you once I'm done unpacking." Elias, a blend of concern and curiosity, went to the refrigerator, grabbed a yogurt, and settled into the living room. He watched Adrian, initially skeptical that the young master type could manage domestic tasks. To his surprise, Adrian was remarkably efficient, quickly organizing his new purchases and cleaning the guest bedroom with a practiced ease. As Elias watched, a comfortable drowsiness stole over him, and he drifted off to sleep on the sofa. He awoke to the soft twilight filtering through the windows. The living room lights were off, but he found himself covered by a small blanket, no doubt retrieved from his own bedroom by Adrian. Elias slowly sat up, turning towards the faint light emanating from the kitchen. Adrian, wearing an apron, was busy at the stove, and the air was filled with the tantalizing aroma of cooking food. Elias had lived alone in this house for so long that the sudden presence of another person, especially Adrian, felt unexpectedly pleasant. Adrian emerged from the kitchen, saw Elias was awake, and flicked on the lights. "Are you awake? Go wash your hands. Dinner's ready." "I didn't realize you could cook," Elias commented, a hint of surprise in his voice. Adrian chuckled. "What, you think I've never done anything useful?" Elias curled his lip playfully, a silent challenge to Adrian's culinary skills. When Elias returned from the bathroom, Adrian had already set the table. Steamed fish, pork ribs with winter melon, shrimp balls stuffed with mushrooms, and loofah and tofu soup, all light, his favorite flavors. Adrian watched him expectantly. "Try it." Elias sampled each dish, his eyes widening slightly with each bite. "How is it?" Adrian asked. Elias nodded, genuinely impressed. "It's almost comparable to Grandview Tower." Adrian burst out laughing. "Now you're just flattering me." Since his pregnancy, Elias's appetite had been fickle, but tonight, he ate with a surprising gusto, only realizing how much he had consumed when a dull discomfort settled in his stomach. He stood up, needing to move, to digest. Adrian, seeing he was done, quickly finished the remaining food. Elias wandered around the living room for a while, but then a sudden wave of nausea hit him, and he bolted for the bathroom. Adrian followed, but Elias, quick as a flash, locked the door. After he finished retching, Adrian immediately handed him a glass of warm water through the slightly ajar door. Elias took a sip, feeling a wave of depression wash over him. Adrian, sensing his mood, offered comfort. "It's okay. The doctor said small, frequent meals. We'll know better next time. I've also made fish soup in the kitchen. If you get hungry later, we can have that." "Okay," Elias nodded, then walked over to lie on the sofa. Adrian came over, sat at his feet, and began to massage them with one of the new massagers. Elias had initially intended to protest, but Adrian somehow found a pressure point that sent a wave of comforting relief through him. He drifted off to sleep once more, the gentle hum of the massager and Adrian's presence lulling him. The next morning, after a breakfast cooked by Adrian, Elias was driven to his company. Before he got out, Adrian handed him a lunchbox. "What's this?" Elias asked. "Your lunch," Adrian replied. "Just heat it up in the microwave at noon. And eat the fruit in the afternoon." Elias shook his head. "Don't bother. The company has a cafeteria." Adrian frowned. "For the baby's sake." Elias sighed. "Okay." After more than 2 months of Adrian's meticulous care, Elias, far from losing weight to morning sickness, had actually gained a few pounds. On Friday, Adrian scheduled a checkup, and Elias felt a nervous flutter. "It's okay," Adrian soothed. "You've been in good condition recently. Don't worry." After the examination, the doctor smiled approvingly. "Excellent, Mr. Thorne. All your nutritional indicators are up to standard, and the child is developing well. It seems your family is taking very good care of you." Elias smiled. "Yes, they are." Adrian, standing beside him, beamed with unconcealed pride. When Elias was over 6 months pregnant, his belly became noticeably prominent. To avoid curious stares and questions, he rarely left the house. Adrian, seeing Elias bored and confined, suggested a vacation to a small island abroad. By now, Adrian's repeated use of "for the sake of the child" had become an unassailable argument, and Elias rarely refused him. The island was breathtaking, the weather sunny and breezy. As they walked on the beach, Elias felt a rare sense of peace. "Do you like it?" Adrian asked, smiling, seeing Elias's good mood. Elias nodded. "If you like it," Adrian continued, "I'll bring you here often." Elias turned to him. "The baby will be born soon. You can take care of him often in the future, but I'll come alone." Adrian's face instantly darkened, and he said nothing. Elias was confused, unsure what had suddenly upset him. Elias woke from his nap that afternoon to a cloudy sky and strong winds outside. A flicker of unease went through him. Adrian quickly walked over. "A typhoon is coming. There might be a power and water outage. Stay inside. I'm going to the warehouse with the front desk to get some water and candles." Elias nodded, watching Adrian leave, then turned his gaze back to the window. The wind howled, whipping branches into the air, a truly frightening sight. Suddenly, a bright splash of color on the beach caught his eye. It was a child, clinging to a red swimming ring, crying. The waves were growing, already engulfing the child's feet, threatening to pull him into the churning sea at any moment. Elias immediately stood up and ran towards the door, his pregnancy forgotten. Outside, the wind was far stronger than he'd anticipated, almost impossible to stand against. He fought his way towards the beach. The child had been knocked down by the wind, lying helpless as waves crashed over him. Elias ran, heedless of his own condition. Just as he reached out and grabbed the child's hand, a monstrous wave slammed into them, sweeping both Elias and the child into the turbulent water. Panic seized him. He clutched the child with one arm, desperately trying to swim with the other, but the current was too strong. He choked on the salty water, unable to make any headway. After what felt like an eternity, his strength gave out. His arms felt like lead, and he could only drift, helpless, in the powerful waves. Despair began to set in. He placed a hand on his swollen stomach, a chilling thought that they might all perish in the sea. Just as he was succumbing to the terrifying current, strong arms suddenly wrapped around his waist. He turned, hope surging through him. It was Adrian. Adrian held Elias securely with one arm, powerfully stroking through the water with the other. Seeing him, Elias felt an immediate calm wash over him, and he instinctively coordinated his movements with Adrian's, treading water. After an agonizing struggle, they finally reached the shore. Elias gasped, breathing a ragged sigh of relief. The child's frantic parents rushed over, profusely thanking Elias and Adrian as they embraced their child. But before Elias could say a word, Adrian scooped him up and carried him swiftly back to the hotel. Adrian was angry. That was Elias's first, undeniable thought. Adrian's face was a mask of grim fury, his silence more potent than any shout. Elias felt a profound guilt, not daring to speak. As soon as they were in their room, Adrian gently placed Elias on the sofa, wrapped him in a warm bath towel, and went into the bathroom to run hot water. When the tub was full, he returned and carefully lifted Elias again. As he reached to help Elias out of his wet clothes, Elias quickly pulled back. "I can do it myself," he mumbled. Adrian paused, then turned and left the bathroom. When Elias emerged from the hot shower, Adrian was sitting by the window, already changed into dry clothes. Elias pursed his lips, walking over slowly. Adrian saw him, poured a cup of hot water, and pushed it towards him. Elias took a sip, glancing at him. Still angry, he thought. He cleared his throat, attempting to break the heavy silence. "Luckily you were there today, Adrian. Otherwise, I would have been in grave danger." Adrian merely stared at him, saying nothing. What a temper, Elias grumbled inwardly. He forced a placating smile. Don't worry, I don't feel unwell. The baby will be fine. Adrian's frown deepened, his expression turning even more sour. Elias continued, I'll get a checkup as soon as we get home. The baby will be fine. Don't worry. Adrian's gaze intensified, his voice low and gritted. You think I only care about the child? Elias was taken aback. No. What else? Adrian stood, pacing agitatedly, his fury palpable. Elias, utterly bewildered, asked, What are you so angry about? Adrian stopped, turning to face him. I'm angry that you don't take yourself seriously. I told you the child is fine. I'm talking about you. I'm not worried about the child, Elias, I'm worried about you. Adrian's voice cracked, full of raw emotion. Elias was stunned, his heart giving a sudden, violent lurch. Adrian stared at him for a long moment, then shook his head, a bitter smile on his lips. Elias, I like you. If I don't tell you, will you never know? Elias's eyes widened, disbelief warring with a nascent hope. You know why I went on those blind dates? Adrian continued, his voice soft. Because I found myself falling in love with you. I wanted to believe I wasn't gay. And that day at Grandview Tower, when I said it was impossible for me to be with you. I was actually trying to convince myself not to like you. Adrian's smile was fragile. I'm almost 30, and I just realized I'm gay. I honestly couldn't accept it at first. Elias was so surprised he couldn't even blink. It took him a long moment to find his voice. Is it because of that night? The two of us? Adrian lowered his head, his voice barely audible. Maybe. Maybe even earlier. In high school, I felt a strange discomfort the first time I saw your cold, arrogant look. So I tried to steal your thunder, to go against you at every turn. But later, I don't know when it started, you became the only person I could see. I found out about the university you applied to, so I followed you there, chose the same major. I heard you started your own company after graduation, and I kept telling myself I just couldn't stand you, that I wanted to get back at you. But that day. Adrian trailed off. I wasn't drunk that day, Elias. I don't know what came over me. Adrian's sudden, heartfelt confession left Elias reeling. His heart seemed to stop, an unknown emotion surging through him, swift and overwhelming. But before he could fully grasp it, it was replaced by a barrage of questions. Adrian actually likes me? Did it start so long ago? How is this possible? Aren't we mortal enemies? As expected, Elias suffered from insomnia, not just for one night, but for several. After their return home, Adrian, seeing Elias's obvious discomfort, offered to move out, but he still ensured an assistant delivered 3 meals to Elias every day. Elias, depressed and sighing constantly, couldn't hide his turmoil. Jasper, returning from a months-long business trip for the Meridian project, noticed his friend's state immediately. What's wrong? He asked. Elias shook his head. You wouldn't understand. Jasper rolled his eyes. Adrian pissed you off, didn't he? If it were me, I'd provoke him. Jasper was about to press further when the doorbell rang. Elias opened the door to Adrian's assistant, a smart-looking young man. The assistant handed him a meal. Elias, your dinner. Elias took the bag, frowning slightly. Why is this from Grandview Tower? The assistant scratched his head. Our boss has been having some trouble cooking lately, so I had to get takeout from Grandview. Oh, Elias cleared his throat. Is he on a business trip? The assistant pursed his lips. Our boss had a car accident this afternoon. He's in the hospital. What? Elias's blood ran cold. A sudden, crushing fear gripped his heart, squeezing it tight, each beat a stinging pain. His legs went weak, threatening to give out. Jasper, quickly moving to support him, glanced at the assistant, his brow furrowed. "Is it serious?" The assistant hesitated. "I don't know the details, but I heard he was admitted to the ICU at Bloom Hospital." With that, he bowed and quickly left. Elias's heart was a searing inferno of anxiety. He immediately urged Jasper to drive him to the hospital. Jasper, skeptical of the assistant's dramatic account, tried to reassure Elias, but he sped to the hospital nonetheless. Elias didn't even wait for Jasper to park. He rushed to the front desk, demanded to know where the ICU was, and ran. As he reached the ICU door, he saw a bed, covered with a white sheet, being wheeled out. A nurse called out, "Family of the car accident patient from today. Come over quickly." Suddenly, Elias's vision blurred, his hands and feet growing numb. As he began to fall, a pair of strong arms supported his waist from behind. He turned, tears instantly streaming down his face. Adrian. When Adrian saw him crying, his brows furrowed, and he gently pulled Elias into a quieter corridor. "What's wrong?" he asked softly. Elias sniffed, his voice hoarse. The assistant said, "You were in a car accident. It's serious. You're in the ICU." Adrian looked stunned for a moment, then gently wiped Elias's tears. "It's just a little scratch. I'm fine. Don't be afraid." Elias looked him up and down, relief washing over him when he saw no serious wounds. Adrian looked down at him, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Are you worried about me?" Elias glared at him, his eyes still red. "Nonsense." Adrian chuckled, then, after a moment, asked, "Are you worried about Adrian, or the baby's father?" Elias froze. He thought back to the panic that had gripped him, the terror he'd felt when he heard Adrian was hurt. He hadn't thought of the child at all. He had only worried about Adrian. Seeing Elias didn't answer, Adrian sighed, pulling him gently into a careful embrace. "It's okay. Anything is fine. As long as you worry about me, I'm happy." Elias buried his head in Adrian's shoulder. After a moment, he replied, his voice muffled, "I'm worried about Adrian." Adrian held his shoulders, pulling back, his face alight with surprise. "Really?" Elias pursed his lips and nodded. Adrian looked incredibly happy, his eyes shining as he stared at Elias. Elias felt a sudden blush creep up his neck. He was about to tell Adrian to stop staring when a cough from nearby made them both turn. Jasper. Elias didn't know how long he had been watching. Elias's face burned with embarrassment, and he quickly pulled Adrian's hand off his shoulder. On the way back, Adrian drove, while Jasper and Elias sat in the back. Jasper glanced in the rearview mirror, then whispered in Elias's ear, "I knew Adrian was a conniving bastard. I wondered why he suddenly became so kind and withdrew from the Meridian bidding. I didn't expect he had his eyes on a much bigger project." Jasper was clearly hinting at something. Elias coughed twice, signaling that there was no soundproofing in the car and Jasper should be quiet. Adrian, from the front seat, chuckled. "Jasper, is your project going well recently?" Jasper snorted. "As long as I don't run into people with ulterior motives, everything will be fine." Adrian remained unperturbed. "If you need any help, you can come to me directly." Jasper sneered. "Don't dare. Just take good care of Elias." Adrian smiled and nodded, saying nothing further. Back at the apartment, Adrian immediately began preparing hot water for Elias's foot soak. Elias's feet had started to swell recently, and Adrian had made it a daily ritual to soak and massage them. Before, Elias had taken it for granted, but tonight, everything felt different, intensely awkward. As Adrian reached for his feet, Elias flinched. I was rejected today," Elias coughed out. Adrian looked up. "What's wrong?" "Well, I'm not tired today," so I don't need a massage. Adrian laughed, a low, warm sound. Really? He suddenly leaned in, his hand gently touching Elias's forehead. Elias's heart pounded, and he instinctively tried to lean back, but Adrian's other hand settled on the back of his head, preventing his escape. Elias, you kind of like me, don't you? A sudden heat surged through Elias's face, as though a fire burned beneath his skin. His heart hammered, and his hands unconsciously picked at the fabric of his clothes. Before he could finish the word, Adrian's lips met his, sealing his protest. When Elias was 8 months pregnant, he followed the doctor's advice and checked into Bloom Hospital early. Adrian had arranged a special ward, spacious, private, and beautifully appointed. Dr. Albright visited daily. As the due date approached, Elias grew increasingly anxious and irritable, often snapping at Adrian, who bore his mood swings with unwavering patience. Even Jasper, visiting frequently, would make the occasional sarcastic remark, which Adrian deflected with good humor. One evening, Elias waited for Adrian to bring dinner. The minutes stretched into an hour, and his temper flared. He stomped out of the ward, intending to march home and confront Adrian. As he reached the hospital's small downstairs garden, he saw Adrian sitting on a bench, talking on his phone. Elias approached quietly, hoping to catch him in the act of, what, exactly? As he drew closer, he realized Adrian wasn't idly chatting. He was on the phone with a doctor abroad, consulting about the risks of Elias's upcoming surgery, skillfully reciting Elias's various medical indicators. A sudden ache swelled in Elias's chest, his eyes burning with unshed tears. Adrian, too, was under immense pressure, enduring his own anxieties in silence, never burdening Elias with his worries. That night, Elias hugged Adrian tightly. Adrian, he whispered, have I made things very hard for you these past months? Adrian kissed the corner of Elias's mouth. Not hard at all, baby. You don't know how happy you make me. The day before the operation, Adrian performed his usual foot-soaking ritual. Elias reached out, gently stroking Adrian's hair. Adrian, he said softly, if something unexpected happens tomorrow, I don't want you to blame yourself. Giving birth to this child has always been my own choice. Adrian didn't look up. Elias felt a pang of sadness. He looked down and saw large tears silently dripping into the basin. He reached out to comfort him. I'm just worried about what might happen. Adrian raised his head, his eyes red-rimmed, his voice thick with emotion. There will be no such thing as an unexpected event. Elias looked at his determined, tear-filled eyes, smiled, and nodded. Yes. There will be no such thing as a contingency. The next day, Elias was wheeled into the operating room. Adrian held his hand, then gently slipped a ring onto Elias's ring finger. Elias was momentarily surprised, then smiled, squinting to see the reflection on the shining band. Adrian leaned in, kissing his forehead. Come on, baby. I'll be waiting for you at the door. Elias nodded. Okay. When I come out, I'll tell you a secret. Adrian smiled, a flicker of light in his worried eyes. I'll wait and hear it. When Elias opened his eyes again, he was back in the ward. Adrian was asleep beside him, still clutching his hand, his face drawn with exhaustion. Elias wiggled a finger, and Adrian instantly woke, leaning over, his eyes wide. You're awake, he choked out, tears instantly welling up. Elias, with difficulty, raised his hand to wipe Adrian's tears away. Adrian kissed his fingers, his voice thick with sobs. You've been sleeping for 3 days. Do you know how scared I was? I'm sorry, Elias whispered. Adrian leaned over, kissing his forehead again, his voice trembling with joy. Baby, you are so brave. It's a girl. She weighs 15 pounds. It was a beautiful, sunny day when Elias was discharged. Adrian had packed their luggage, including the new babies, early that morning. A new auntie and a confinement nanny were already waiting at their apartment. Jasper drove to pick them up, constantly repeating that he was driving for his goddaughter, not for Elias. Elias was too content, too focused on Adrian and their baby girl, to engage in banter. Adrian suddenly remembered Elias's promise. "Baby," he asked, his eyes sparkling, "you said you'd tell me a secret after the surgery. What is it?" Elias smiled, hooking a finger and beckoning Adrian closer. Adrian leaned his ear to Elias's lips. "Actually," Elias whispered, "I wasn't drunk enough to pass out that day." Adrian's eyes widened instantly in stunned realization. Elias saw his shocked face and couldn't help but burst into laughter, a sound lighter and freer than he'd felt in years. The golden sunlight in the distance painted the horizon, a thread of hope weaving vibrant dreams. From that moment on, the wandering soul had finally found a home, and the traveler with few relatives had, at last, found his bond.